It's going to be a low-scoring affair, but the idea that the Jets, in the spot that they're in, should be favored on the road over the Pittsburgh Steelers is lunacy. Give me the Steelers plus 2.5 and win this thing outright. It's easy. 20-16, low-scoring affair. 20-16 over the New York Jets. And in doing so, will effectively end the Jets season. Yeah! If the Jets lose, they are done. Yeah! From the home energy, let me tell you something, y'all. I'm going to be in Neyland Stadium tomorrow. That place is going to be rocking for 60 minutes. The earth may shake.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Carving It Up. I am Bryson Carver, and there's so much to talk about in the world of sports today.
Something about that Rocky Top, you know what I'm saying? Something about that Rocky Top on a 5-year anniversary celebration of Carving Up Live, and we welcome you, everyone out there, wherever you may be. It's Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as the Grid Network YouTube channel, Carving Up YouTube channel as well, Facebook. This is a glorious day. It's a celebration day for a show. You heard in our little intro right there, you heard my little, synopsis of what was going to come on Carving Up Live on our very first episode on October 21st, 2019. Here we are, October 21st, 2024, and we've got as loaded of a show as we've ever had for you. Again, with Rocky Top in the background, Tennessee knocking off Alabama. You Crimson Tide fans out there whining, oh, it's fake crowd noise. Now, get out of here. Fake crowd noise. AJ McCarron said it. The voice of the Crimson Tide says it. Bama fans are saying that there's fake crowd noise. I was in Neyland Stadium, ladies and gentlemen. That wasn't no fake crowd noise. Come on now. It's a great day to be a Tennessee Vol, and frankly, it's a great day to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Man, oh man. You had to have Rocky Top on there, man. They had to have Rocky Top. But, we have a ton to talk about today in all seriousness because this is our celebration show, 5 years of Carving It Up. I will have to say, it was a beautiful night for my Steelers. Get to that in a second. But also a great day for the Kansas City Chiefs, getting them in 12 minutes. Why? I think we are doing the Chiefs right now a disservice with how they're viewing them, specifically from a statistical context. Get to that in about 12 minutes. Also, what else we got? The Detroit Lions, the team I had going to the Super Bowl, absolutely putting boots to arse out there against the Minnesota Vikings. Very impressed by what I saw from Detroit. Why, to me, they are the clear and obvious front runner to win the NFC. Get to that in about 30 to 45 minutes. Also, I was actually not impressed by the Texans, but in a weird way, Houston may be actually a little bit better than I thought. That later in the show, World Series. I hate the Yankees, and I hate them passionately. But we got Yankees and we got Dodgers in the World Series in 2024. There goes my Steelers hat. But this is a fantastic shot in the arm for Major League Baseball. I'll explain why it's the biggest one that they've had in the 21st century. Get to that later on. Reaction to the WNBA Finals and really what this NBA Finals taught. I don't say taught me, but reinforced with me about sports as a whole. Recap of Week 7 around the NFL. And at the end of the show, predictions for Ravens-Bucks, which is an amazing Monday night game, as well as Cardinals and Chargers, which is an maybe not equally fascinating game, but a good game nonetheless. Hold on, y'all. Just drop my Steelers hat here. I got to put it on for the Steelers segment because it is fitting. Take this off, put this on. You know what? We got a terrible towel in the building. Wait, listen, we're having fun today, okay? This is 5 years of Carving Up Live, 600 plus episodes in. Does that work? There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Of course, right off the bat, we're dealing with connection issues. That is, in a very strange way, kind of fitting. I think we're starting to come back. I think the feed's starting to come back on the show. So again, we may deal with Wi-Fi problems because we've been dealing with Wi-Fi problems as of late, but hopefully we should be good to go in the long run for today's show. Thank you so much, though, to everybody stopping by for supporting the show, and we're going to try and give you the best performance and show possible throughout the course of the next hour and a half, 2 hours, however long that we will be here. Philip's in the comments. What's up, Philip? He says, happy 5th anniversary. Let's go. Many, many more great years to go. Well, that's the hope. That's the hope, Philip. So I appreciate you supporting for all these years. And show them the comments, my man. This is a momentous occasion. Hopefully we can give you all a great show. So let's start with them Steelers. But first, I was skeptical, like it seemed like the rest of Steelers Nation. Be it reporters and media in Pittsburgh, be it Steelers fans, or be it the 2 Super Bowl champion quarterbacks from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Terry Bradshaw, who won not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 Super Bowls in the 1970s, leading Pittsburgh to really be the first, the NFL's first modern dynasty in the Super Bowl era. He's like, hey, stick with Justin Fields. And then you have Big Ben Roethlisberger, who's a podcast now, who won 2 Super Bowls with the team. He's like, hey, listen, he's gotten to 4-2. You don't need to go away from the hot hand now. And my mindset was coming into this game is, hey, you know, this is a young quarterback. Let's see what he's got. Let's see if maybe, just maybe, who knows, if he's the long-term future, if we need to draft a quarterback next year. But as Mike Tomlin said after the game, he was asked about, or it was sort of alluded to, hey, you made this call when most people thought maybe this wasn't the greatest of the world. And Mike Tomlin said, and I quote, that's why I'm highly compensated. Who am I to question? Who am I to question the great Mike Tomlin, who's obviously never had a losing season? And who am I to question? How dare I? Russell Wilson, who looked pretty good last night. Now, it's a bad Jets team. And oh, believe me, and you heard it in the little promo there to start the show, we will get to the New York Jets. Best believe that. But Russell Wilson, how about his stat line last night? 16 of 29, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. By the way, 3 touchdowns total on the night. We got 1 on a QB sneak. QBR 0 to 100 of 66. That's pretty good for a guy making his first start in 10 months. And a passer rating of 109. Dare I say, vastly outplaying the quarterback on the other side. And trust me, we will get to him a little bit later. But what I saw from Russell in the Steelers offense is certainly not the mobility that Justin Fields gives you. Arthur Smith's not going to call these design quarterback runs the way he's been calling them for Justin Fields. But what he is calling is deep shots to the man, the myth, the legend himself, George freaking Pickens. Maybe that's what I'll call him for, George freaking Pickens. Okay, who had 5 catches for $111. Had a touchdown and was joggling catches over Jets defenders who was going up over the top. This is a dude. I've said it for years. When this guy has the ball in his hands, oh, he's something special. He's a different monster. Throw that football anywhere in that man's vicinity. He can go get it. He can go up over the top. He can run down a long ball. Now, George Pickens' effort, rightfully so, had been questioned in the last 2 weeks. The tape against Dallas, damning, to say the very least. Not putting the effort into routes the way he should be, not blocking the way he needed to on run plays. Maybe it was Mike Tomlin being Mike Tomlin, be able to get to players in whatever way he has to, because he is a leader of men if there ever was one. And George Pickens was fantastic. Pat Freiermuth got involved last night. He had 2 catches for 51 yards, but was great in the run game. Najee Harris, 21 carries, $102, and the dagger touchdown on the last drive. Pittsburgh's offense was down, or Pittsburgh in general, obviously, down 15-6 toward the end of the first half. They then closed the game on a 31-0 run. 31-0. Again, and I said this on Instagram last night, it's against a bad team, so you have to take that in consideration. The Jets are a bad football team, and I will get to them. But at the same time, you do take into consideration, okay, they've used 2 different quarterbacks in the last 2 weeks, scored 30 twice in both those games, and scoring 30, Steelers fans, are you with me? That's not terribly common in Steeler country over the course of the last 3, 4, 5 years or so. In large part of that has been lackluster to, at some points, bad quarterback play. Russell Wilson was far from bad last night. Now, Russell's obviously going to be the starter moving forward, again, unless he plays poorly, and maybe Tomlin goes back to Justin Fields, which he actually alluded to NBC about potentially doing if Russell's performance isn't up to par. But if the second half is any indication, in the second half, where the Steelers went field goal, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown to close the game, and by the way, that last touchdown came on a drive in which they ran 13 plays, 75 yards, burned 7.5 minutes off the clock to ice the game. So I do not think the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the class. I'll get to Kansas City. I certainly don't think they're in the class of the Chiefs. Not yet. They match up well against the Ravens, but do I think they can go on a long run like the Ravens? Not right now. I do not feel that way. Lamar Jackson is far greater than anybody the Pittsburgh Steelers have right now at the quarterback position, and Derrick Henry's a different monster. Okay, Houston, young, Pittsburgh, the experience, that actually could favor the Pittsburgh Steelers in the long run. But the Buffalo, Josh Allen, the Steelers struggling against Josh Allen in the playoffs last year. To me, those are the three contenders. KC, Baltimore, Buffalo, those are the top three in the AFC. Houston is a potential, I won't say sleeper because I think they're a contender, but in that group as well, potentially. See if they get the ship righted after yesterday. But from what I saw from Pittsburgh, they can enter that discussion. Are you telling me a defense that's got the best defensive player on planet Earth? His name is T.J. Watt. A defense that has as good of a secondary as there is in the National Football League. Be it Minkah Fitzpatrick, the leader of the secondary. Be it Joey Porter Jr., outstanding corner. Be it a guy, Beanie Bishop, have a freaking night, young man. 2 interceptions off of Aaron Rodgers, the first of which was a disastrous throw by Aaron, but still simultaneously a great play by Bishop, able to step in front of the throw, to cover a lot of ground, to make that play and be able to return it and put the Steelers in position to score. But really turn the momentum of that game around. You have a linebacking core that's got young guys like Peyton Wilson. You've got guys like obviously Patrick Queen on the interior of the defensive line. You got Cam Hayward. Nick Herbig's a good third down pass rusher off the bench. You've got a guy in Alex Highsmith who's an elite pass rusher. Steelers have arguably the best defense in football. And if this offense can do anything, what they did last night, running the football and being able to make the defense respect you with the deep ball, the Steelers can be a fringe contender with that coach having his team ready to play every week, with that offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. I remember there was a lot of, Arthur Smith, is he much better than Matt Canada? And I said back in January or February, whenever he was hired, I think it was January, when Arthur Smith was hired, I said, folks, there's a reason a fourth of the league was going after this guy. Arthur Smith is not a good head coach. He's an elite offensive coordinator. Look what he did with Ryan Tannehill with Tennessee. The Titans reached their highest peaks with Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator, getting the most out of whatever he had at the quarterback position with Ryan Tannehill. He did that with Justin Fields the first 6 games. Through 1 game, he's done that with Russell Wilson. So I trust offensive play calling. Now, my big concern with this team is the offensive line. I mean, you saw in that first half, the Jets were just constantly getting pressure on Russell Wilson. Still did a better job of kind of mitigating that with the halftime adjustments in the second half. So that's my big concern. I don't like this offensive line at all long-term, in large part due to injuries and lack of continuity. But efficiency, we need Russell to be efficient. He was that last night. We need him. We need him to be able to help the defense respect the deep ball to a guy in George Pickens who, I say it again, is special when you get the football in his hands. Loved what I saw last night. I didn't expect it. I said before the game, again, you saw in the promo, 20-16, Steelers. I thought it was utterly absurd that the Jets were favored in this game on the road. Thought that was insane, out of bounds, and crazy by Vegas. But I thought it'd be low scoring. I didn't know how Russell would do 10 years of not playing in an NFL game. I didn't know how it'd fit. How the Steelers offense had looked in a fantastic performance against the Vegas Raiders the previous Sunday. But in a way, they looked more diverse in terms of what their play calling could do. They could throw it deep. They could throw intermediate routes. They could run the football. Give Russell Wilson time. Pretty darn efficient. Now, do I think this is going to be sustained long term? My answer to that is, it's like the shrug emoji. I don't know. I really don't. Because my mood when Russell Wilson signed in Pittsburgh was, well, at least he's cheap and he's better than Kenny Pickett. I can say that about him. Well, he's far better than Kenny Pickett, than anything Kenny Pickett ever did in Pittsburgh. And the Steelers, who, by the way, have a home date, another primetime game, by the way, a week from tonight on Monday Night Football next week against the lowly Daniel Jones-led Giants at home. Pittsburgh should win that game, get to 6-2, go into the bye before they have a big date against the Washington Commanders team that right now is that Jaden Daniels, and all the best, obviously, to him. Hopefully he gets better sooner rather than later. But this is a team in this division, AFC North, where the Browns are a disaster. The Bengals, I still don't trust them long-term defensively, even though Joe Burrow scares the crap out of me, and we know what the Baltimore Ravens are and what they represent. Steelers right now sitting there in the playoffs as the 3 seed right now, tied with Houston to potentially be the 2 seed. I don't know. Fringe contender? Maybe. I'll say that about this Pittsburgh Steelers. Before I get to the New York Jets, let's see what I got in the comments up in here, and then I'll get to the New York Jets. Jeff, what's up, my man Jeff? He says, happy 5th year of the show. A little late to this one, but let's go, man. Appreciate you, Jeff. He said a guy that's going to go underrated in this game, and by the way, I mentioned him, Jeff, maybe not from Bryson, but from others, is Peyton Wilson. A ton of potential there. Speed, they're not stopping, not stopping until the whistle. That's how you freaking play linebacker. No question about that. Philip, if Russell Wilson could stay healthy and play like he did last night, y'all are very scary this year to be contenders. Who would have thought? Steelers country. Let's ride. Well, you know what? The catchphrase. And by the way, I said this morning. Shout out to the Triple Option Sports Radio Show, 89.5 The Edge. Check it out on the TuneIn app every Monday at from 10 a.m. to 12 to noon Eastern, and every Friday from noon Eastern to 1. I do it with my good friends, Addison, Asher, did a fantastic show this morning. But something I talked about the Steelers earlier today, this morning on the radio, is that notice, and by the way, I don't want to sound like I'm thinking, oh, Melissa Stark was trying to bait Russell Wilson. No, Melissa Stark was the one who reported. I said on the show 2 weeks ago, oh, Lord, Russell has a new catchphrase. Here we go. It was go Hawks in Seattle. Let's ride in Denver. What is it now? And Melissa Stark said 2 weeks ago, it's win the 7th. And she essentially was trying to get that out of Russ. Okay, like, where's, like, not, she didn't say it's verbatim, but where's the catchphrase? And Russ wouldn't do it. I'm like, oh, maybe this is a new Russ. One that isn't all about catchphrases and cheesy. I mean, Russell's still a touch corny, but he's a great guy. I love Russell as a human being. I've never said that about it bad as a person. But maybe Russell has been humbled by the end of Seattle and by the entirety of his Denver tenure to say, you know what? I'm in as well-run a franchise as it could be in. I'm with a great coach and a tremendous roster. If I just go out there and do my job, we can win a lot of football games without any of the odd distractions. So, I don't know right now. He's looking good. Jeff, I already told you, but when Najee Harris ran that in for a touchdown in garbage time, I just laughed and couldn't stop. The Jets' season was over right there. I'll get to them in just a second. Patrick, my man, Patrick Brown, teammate at the Grid Network and good friend of mine. He says, Steelers Nation, let's weld and win the 7th. Well-deserved win from start to finish. Well, I don't know about the start. The start was looking a little dicey offensively and even defensively in spurts. But in terms of the overall breadth of the game, couldn't have been prouder of what I saw from the Steelers offense. And if that could be sustained, I said 9-8, missing the playoffs. Looks like I underrated the Steelers. But it's a long season. I don't want to overreact. But I like what I saw from Russell Wilson. I can't lie about what I saw. I like what I saw from Russell Wilson. Terrible towel down. Maybe we'll bring it out later. First time you're seeing my eyes on the show today. I will have to say this before we get to the Jets. It was a fantastic night at Neyland Stadium. Again, show you some of the highlights. So this was after the game was over. All right, fireworks shooting off. Fans were storming the field. It was a crazy atmosphere. Neyland was insanely loud. You Bama fans out there saying, oh, there was fake crowd noise. Just get out of here. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's just, I mean, literally, A.J. McCarron said it. The voice of the Tide on the radio said it was fake crowd noise. Y'all, I was there. I was in the building. That place was a madhouse. No other way about it. There's the goalpost being taken down. Not going to lie. Totally cool storm the field. That, by the way, I'm on the field right there. There's Dane Davis, offensive line for the Vols. Shout out to him. He's been great for Tennessee, but that's me on the field right there. I think you'll see my big ugly mug right there. There we go. But there was a fantastic night in Knoxville at Neyland, and oh my gosh, gigantic win for my Vols over the Tide. To come back and win the game the way that we did, very, very proud of Tennessee. And hey, college football playoff hopes. By the way, SEC title hopes. Now that Texas loses and Tennessee does play Georgia, very much alive. So Very, very, very proud of what Tennessee did in the second half and be able to turn around what was an abysmal offensive performance in the first half, turn that into a fantastic comeback in the second half. Getting the run game going. Iam Aliava was fantastic. So, love us all. Josh Heupel, you, sir, are the man. And trust me, the cigar smoke, I still feel some of that in my eyes right now. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. It was an unbelievable night. Who didn't have an unbelievable night? Those New York Football Jets. You know, it's funny. I remember when they lost to the Denver Broncos in week 4. Remember they lost that game 10-9. Bo Nix had like -7 yards in the first half, something crazy, and the Jets still found a way to lose that game. And I remember after that game, Aaron Rodgers said, hey, he continuously pointed to, hey, come on, guys, it's raining. There's a monsoon in New York. What do you want us to do? Crap. I don't know, score a touchdown like Denver did. But he also said, hey, cadence problems. The cadence problems and the timing with Garrett Wilson not working so well. Okay, maybe you're right. Well, and then the next week, Aaron Rodgers threw not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6 in a game that the New York Jets lost to the Vikings by a grand total of 6 points in London. Thought that was interesting. And Aaron Rodgers, despite what he tries to gaslight some folks on, calls Woody Johnson, or he and Woody Johnson have a phone call that Robert Sala's future definitely wasn't brought up. Obviously, duh. Robert Sala's gone by Tuesday morning. And so they play the Buffalo Bills. And despite getting the aid of a Hail Mary in the first half, they barely break 20. And then it's, we need Devontae Adams. You know, the offense has the pieces. We just need that one guy. We need Aaron's number one guy, as if Aaron hasn't gotten basically all of his guys other than Devontae into the Jets organization, like his now former offensive coordinator, wide receivers, offensive lineman, backup quarterback, etc. So they get Devontae Adams. And the Jets, despite being a 2-4 disaster who fired their coach and lost 3 straight, were somehow, someway road favorites against a Mike Tomlin coach team, and that's what you saw. That's what you saw. And it was what made it so satisfying, because the Jets are done. Like, they're done. The Jets season is over. They're done. Historically in the NFL, you fall to 2-5, you have a 6% chance to make the postseason. 6%. You're telling me that a Jets team that it appears, well, we'll show you the stats, appears might have actually fired the best coach on their staff. This is the defense, folks, with Robert Saleh, and the defense without Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh coached a way better defense. They give up 17 points per game with Saleh, 30 points without him. They gave up 255 yards with him, 384 without him. They gave up $161 through the air passing. That ranks second in the NFL, by the way. Now they give up 239 passing. They had 18 sacks, which ranked fourth in the NFL. 3 sacks since Saleh was fired. That ranks 20th in the National Football League. It appears the Jets might have actually fired the wrong guy. And by the way, I don't think Saleh's a great head coach. He can coach defense. I've always said that. Saleh can always coach defense. Just look at his time in San Francisco. That'd tell you that. But what infuriated me more than anything else is the idea that a Jets team that had a bad head coach who ended up getting fired, a bad offensive coordinator who ended up getting demoted for a coordinator who evidently isn't that much better, an offensive line that's old and often injured, a defense that's hot and cold, and most importantly, a quarterback who has not been good in 3 years. A franchise that has not been to the playoffs, honest to God, since I was in the first grade. Since, what was it, the first or second year of the Obama administration. It's been that long. We were barely in the 2010s the last time that the Jets made the playoffs. Now we're midway through in the 2020s. Speaking, by the way, of Aaron Rodgers, can we see what he's done in this losing streak? Because he has been terrible. 5 touchdowns, 6 picks, 259 pass yards per game, completing under 60% of his throws, a passer rating barely above 70, QBR from 0 to 100 of 45. And the Jets, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are averaging 15 points per game. It's fitting that they hit on the dot in the first half and went over in the second half. 15 points. What bothers me too is because I heard, hey, Jets are 2-4, but you know what? Close loss to the Bills. As if they're not used to those. Aaron Rodgers is going to turn around. He's got Davante Adams coming in the building. Well, yeah, the problem is Davante Adams doesn't have the same quarterback that he had 3 years ago when he was arguably the best receiver in the game in 2021. Also, maybe what bothers me the most about the coverage the Jets get, because I'll admit, it's like watching a car crash. I should say entertaining. That's a bad way to put it. You can't take your eyes off of it. The Jets are an interesting mess to watch. It's like a reality show. It's like the Kardashians, for crying out loud. But when they hit adversity, and every team does, even the Chiefs, they're 6-0. Chiefs going to hit adversity. I'd argue they're hitting it right now with their offensive struggles. Every team's going to hit adversity. The idea that a franchise that hasn't gone to the playoffs since 2010 with coaching deficiencies and, frankly, a talent deficiency, with a bad owner and bad GM, that the guy to turn it around was not only a guy who was 3 years removed from being elite, 2 years removed from being okay, and 1 year removed from suffering the worst injury an athlete can suffer, a torn Achilles. That guy, who also happens to be the single worst leader at the quarterback position I've ever seen in my life, opposite side Jay Cutler. Notice last night, anytime the Jets made a mistake, rolling his eyes, body language is bad, throwing the football away immediately. I mean, remember Aaron used to do that in Green Bay? I mean, me and my sister, who's a big Packers fan, used to talk about all the time. She used to get so pissed off. Man, Aaron's throwing it out of bounds as soon as he snaps the ball. What is going on? He's doing that last night. He's disengaged. Maya Angelou said it best. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Aaron Rodgers has shown us who he is for years now. This offseason, which began with Aaron going to the podium and saying, and I quote, all the BS that doesn't have anything to do with the football needs to get out of the building. We've got to be committed to the process of winning football games. That same guy, proceeds to, over the offseason, contemplate running for vice president of the United States, then goes on during mandatory minicamp with receivers he's never thrown an in-game pass to, go to Egypt. Nothing wrong with Aaron Rodgers going to Egypt. Nothing. I don't have a problem with it. Just don't lecture us and say that football is the most important thing to you. Just don't lecture us and say, like when a media person asks you, what's got to happen for you guys' season to turn around? The first thing you say, we got to stop listening to you guys. Yeah, the media is the problem with the Jets. That's the problem. It's how they're covered. How the media covering the Jets is the reason they're 2-5. No, they're 2-5 because they're a bad football team with a below average quarterback. And it infuriates me that they're not covering a guy. Do we have the numbers right here? That they're not covering a guy who's this. 22nd touchdown interception ratio, 13th in pass yards per game, 26th in yards per attempt, 28th in completion percentage, 24th in QBR, in passer rating, 23rd in QBR, and 24th in team points per game. And since the 2000, do we have the stat? We actually may not have it, but since the 2022 season, is a quarterback who can't even hit a 90 passer rating. He's not good. We've got to stop covering this team as if they resemble anything short of a 7-win football team, which they've been the last few years, which, by the way, let's do our weekly comparison of this year's Jets offense versus last year's Jets offense. At this point, go. Same points per game. This year's Jets team averages more yards per game, barely more yards per play, 0.2. This Jets team turns the ball over 1 fewer than last year's Jets, but commits 11 more penalties and has 2 fewer wins than the 2023 Jets, who were quarterbacked by Zach Wilson. Aaron Rodgers has not gotten the Jets further at this point than Zach Wilson could. Well, Bryson, he could. How? How do we know that? He throws a pretty football. That's what he's been relegated to at this point in his career. And Aaron, to his credit, because God knows he is as gifted as they come, historically, he'll throw that football as pretty as anybody that's ever done it for 20, 30 years. But he's not a good player, and he's an atrocious leader. You saw by the way, you saw the comparison of organizations last night. The well-run franchise with stability, that's wins first, ego second, compared to a Jets organization that handed everything as it pertains to a coach hiring, firing decisions and personnel decisions to a guy who has an abysmal playoff record since 2011 and has not been good since the 2021 season. And that's what you get. That's what the Jets get as a result of that. I feel bad for Jets fans. That's who I feel bad for, because the fans are the ones getting screwed in all this. As far as the organization, certainly as far as Aaron, I don't feel 1 ounce of sympathy. This is a bad football team. They have just as many wins as the Jaguars and the Giants. Why aren't we covering them as such? Goodness, man. I mean, we've seen teams get off to a cold start, but such teams have had the organizational stability and structure and culture. I mean, the Detroit Lions, who we're going to talk about later in the show, right? 2 years ago, the Lions got off to a 1-6 start, and were a win away from making the playoffs because they had organizational structure and stability and by the way, they had, if nothing else, talented players, which the Jets do not have. I mean, Breece Hall's talented, Garrett Wilson, maybe Devontae Adams, and that's where it ends. Sauce Gardner's not healthy enough. Okay, the Jets defensive line could not get pressure against a bad Steelers O-line and Russell Wilson in the second half of that game. It is infuriating to me that we folks, I hear, this is my final point and then I'll move on. Maybe, by the way, maybe this is a good thing, what I'm about to say. I don't know. I hear more criticism for the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 6-0 and have not lost since Christmas and have won the last 2 Super Bowls. I hear more criticism for them than a Jets team who's been nothing my entire life with the quarterback who hasn't been good since 2021. Explain that. Unbelievable. Sorry if I feel like I was yelling there, but had to get that out of my system. John Rivera. I don't know how John felt about that segment. I see his comment later. He says, time to get out of here. John's a big Jets fan. Buddy's a Yankees fan, so you know what? It's a good trade-off. John, congrats on 5 years, bro. Appreciate you. Please subscribe, Fan Perspective Podcast. John Rivera does a fantastic job over there. Put some great stuff on social media. Great friend of mine. Consider a true friend. I love John. Yeah, shout out to him for sure. And Pat, I like what Patrick said. Alabama, roll backwards. Congrats to Vol Nation, GBO. Appreciate that, Patrick. Jeff, 6% chance, and Rodgers fans will say, OMG, did you see that throw that he's vintage Rodgers? No, he's not. And don't blame the O-line. Y'all didn't give Zach Wilson a pass, and Rodgers is basically Wilson right now. Thank you. Thank you. Patrick. Not to mention, doesn't help the situation by going on Pat McAfee's show, flexing as he and Tay Adams were about to light the world on fire. And that's something else too, Patrick. Thank you for hitting on that. Is that it's this smug, it's this condescending, it's this, by the way, Patrick, and great comment, and Patrick's been all over this, by the way. Green Bay is smiling and enjoying success past Aaron Rodgers. You can see the vibes are bubbly, and guys enjoy playing football. Precisely, Patrick Brown. You see the Green Bay Packers over there? Even last year, Green Bay, did Green Bay get off to like a 3-6 start? There was something like that. Like the Packers looked dead in the water midseason last year before Jordan Love went on that crazy run in the second half of the season. But you see it's like like you said, the Packers can exhale. Oh my, thank God. Okay, now we can focus on football. No, I mean, by the way, the Packers had, and it was barely, I shouldn't say it was barely reported, it was barely talked about by any of us, myself included. There was a situation with Romeo Doubs, according to what I read, it sounded like he didn't even want to enter a game or didn't like the role that he was in with the Steelers wide receiving core. If Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, that's a story for the rest of the year. In Green Bay now with Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, Being able to excel, with mature guys, mature young guys, not a problem. It's nipped in the bud in 3 days, and Romeo Dobbs is right back out there catching passes from Jordan Love, and it's like nothing happened. Because well-run franchises can move on from those things. I know, listen, I've spent 30 minutes on the Steelers and Jets. I won't spend 30 minutes on every segment beyond this. I want to talk about Russell Wilson and my team. Obviously, I love my Steelers, of course. I am so sick and tired of people covering this team like they're good. They're not good. They're 2 and freaking 5, and they've been mostly healthy. Man. All right. Speaking of disastrous teams, which the Jets are, let's move on to the back-to-back world champion Kansas City Chiefs. So they beat the 49ers yesterday, 28-18. Mahomes moves to 5-0 against the San Francisco 49ers. By the way, 2 of those wins were in the Super Bowl. Get to the 49ers and particularly Brock Purdy a little bit later in the segment, but I wanted to focus on Kansas City to start. Statistically speaking, Patrick Mahomes has not been good at all this year. 6 touchdowns, 8 picks, and I believe if the numbers serve me correctly, he's just struggling just to be in the top 20 in terms of passer rating. So by the numbers, Mahomes has not been good. But of course, this isn't a carving up the context segment. We usually do those on Wednesdays. Maybe we should have done one today. Who knows? But to provide context, Patrick Mahomes, like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tom Brady, like all these legendary athletes, is not somebody who can just be reduced to stats. We've got to move past that with a guy at this caliber, at this stage in his career. I said this stage like he's an older player, but at this stage as it pertains to what he's already accomplished, in the sense that this is a Chiefs team that, first and foremost, might have the best defense of football. It's them or Pittsburgh. Minnesota had a rough day, but Detroit's going to do that to a lot of teams. We're going to talk about them in 10 minutes. But it's to me, the clear-cut 3 best defenses of football in no particular order. Steelers, Vikings, Chiefs. And they overwhelmed Brock Purdy yesterday, and then that Niners offense yesterday, obviously a beat-up 49ers offense. Get to them later. The Chiefs' defense is going to be good. Andy Reid's going to do his thing in terms of play calling. I thought Andy Reid coached an outstanding game yesterday. Just a lot of packages and formations, the creativity. Carson Wentz, the backup quarterback, is in on a red zone play in that game. It's like he's getting everybody involved. It's just he keeps you on your toes. And for Mahomes, a guy whose receiving core is, I talk about how bad Dak's receiving core is. And outside of CeeDee Lamb, it's objectively terrible. They're 32nd in the NFL in terms of separation. But of course, and I love Dak Prescott more than anybody, Dak is not Patrick Mahomes. That's just an understatement of the day. Dak is not Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has a Travis Kelce who, while still productive in spurts, kind of saves that for the playoffs. Like, Kelce was okay last year in the regular season and phenomenal in the playoffs. Matter of fact, one of the great postseason runs by a tight end ever. That's what Travis is at this point in his career. He's in year 12, rather. So he's not the same player he used to be. Hollywood Brown gone. Rashee Rice gone. Now Juju Smith-Schuster, who they just picked up off the street for the Patriots, gone. Isaiah Pacheco, gone. And he's still not making it work. By the way, those 2 interceptions, the first one, if you want to put it on Mahomes, fine. That thing got tipped. The second one, receiver just plumb runs the wrong route. It was just a bad route. I mean, he's working again with Sky Moore, with obviously Xavier Worthy, who I really like long-term. I don't like Xavier Worthy as a number 1 receiver in the NFL. No, I do not like that. Noah Gray, who's emerging, but he's still Noah Gray. And the Chiefs are 6-0. And I think we've got to move past how we viewed this team for years and what their reality is today, how they're currently constructed. So from 2018 was Mahomes' first year starting. So from 2018 to 2021, Mahomes was slinging it all over the yard, and Tyreek Hill was catching 50-yard touchdowns, and Travis Kelce was just eating your defense alive with 15-yard catches, and the Chiefs were just putting up a million points. They did win a lot of shootouts. Their defense often wouldn't show up to the party, and Mahomes would have to save the day at the very end. That's not who they are now. They may get back to that in the future because Mahomes is that type of player and Reid is that type of coach, but that's not who they are now. They're a team that is built, first and foremost, obviously off the greatness of Mahomes, but by their defense as well. It is so similar. It's not even funny. It's so darn similar to the New England Patriots with Tom Brady, where there was a stretch when the Patriots won the Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl back in the 2001 season, right? That was the year, obviously, we know how Tom got his job. Bledsoe suffers the life-threatening injury. Of course, thank God he's okay. Brady comes in. There was a point in that season. The Patriots won 11 games that year. There was a point in the season when the New England Patriots won 6 straight games in 2001. And in that stretch, Tom Brady, the greatest ever, threw 3 touchdown passes. And I think it was like 8 picks or something. Like, Brady was not good, except when he had to be. And that's part of the reason Tom is the GOAT. Like, even when Tom isn't playing well, if Tom Brady's got the ball, either with the lead or with the chance to take it in the fourth quarter, you're scared out of your mind. And that's what Mahomes puts in you. In the second half, Kansas City, and again, aided by Purdy turnovers, we'll get to Purdy, but Kansas City's in a spot, if I can pull this up here, where it is, what's the score at this point? Okay, 14-12. This is after Purdy's thrown the brutal interception. And Patrick Mahomes, was it this drive? Yes. It's 2nd down and 7 from the San Francisco 37-yard line. And Patrick Mahomes, we don't have the film of it for copyright reasons, but Patrick Mahomes is rolling to his left, pump fakes Fred Warner, the best linebacker in the game, gets Fred Warner guessing, rolls to his left, takes that puppy 33 yards down inside the 5-yard line, and sets up Kansas City for a touchdown. Mahomes making plays when his team needs them the most. Later on, after Mahomes, and by the way, I hear all the time, oh my goodness, it's rigged for the Chiefs. The refs have it in the bag for the Kansas City. I don't know, Mahomes, and the second interception was shoved in the throat by Malik Collins, a defensive tackle. Didn't see a flag. Ref looked like he might have was about to throw him potentially. Decided to keep it in his pocket. Whatever. Mahomes goes on with that kid. My man Jeff was texting me throughout this game. He's a big Niners fan. Mustafa, boy, does he listen. That guy will hit you, bro. He will hit you. And Mahomes, in this next drive after that, for a touchdown run, or was it this drive? Or no, it might have been. Sorry, it was the drive where Mahomes ran them down. 4th down and goal. Same drive, rather. I apologize. Mahomes lowers his shoulder into the hardest hitting play on the Niners defense. Boom! I'm in. We're up 2 scores, and you're not coming back from that. I think it's doing this player a disservice. I saw a statistical comparison. It's gone viral on social media. Mahomes in the first 6 games of year 8 versus Tom Brady in the first 6 games of year 8. Yeah, that's a great comparison. Let's use Patrick Mahomes' worst start to a season ever against Brady's best start. I mean, that's kind of a disingenuous stat, but whatever. This isn't a guy. It's like Steph Curry. Mahomes and Steph are so similar. It's not even funny. Steph Curry can be shooting 2 for 15. You're scared out of your mind if Steph Curry has the ball in the final minutes of a game. It's like, oh, God, it just takes one for this guy, and he's going to go on a Curry flurry. And that's kind of how I feel about Mahomes. It just takes that one play, and it's like, oh, God, there he is again. Mama, there go that man. There he goes. Listen, I am not... Yeah, I said earlier, I am baffled at the coverage of the Jets as people acting as if they're anything short of a 7-win football team. I'm a little baffled at the coverage of the Chiefs. Maybe it's nothing more than what we were used to them being and what they are now. Like, folks, do we realize how bad that they're not good. Like, that's they're I don't want to say they're Patriots bad. They're close. I mean, Xavier Worthy, who I like long term, he's a rookie though. Juju Smith-Schuster, who was on the Patriots, did nothing. Now he's hurt. Mahomes elevated him into something. Mecole Hardman, who was cut by the Jets, let go by the Chiefs. Now he's back. Kareem Hunt, who nobody wanted. Chiefs brought him back. It sounds cheesy. It sounds corny, but I swear it's a real thing with dynasties. They just know how to close games. Even against the best teams. The Chiefs did it by the skin of their teeth, but against the Ravens, Patrick Mahomes was clutch against Cincinnati. They closed it out defensively against Atlanta. What was their 4th game? Closed out defensively against the Chargers. Mahomes and the Chiefs offense put on a showcase against the Saints, and then against on the road against a Niners team that really, really needed a win and certainly wanted revenge after how last year's Super Bowl went. Mahomes didn't blink. Mahomes and Purdy both without their weapons. And Mahomes just said, I'm going to do whatever I got to do. in the second half and the fourth quarter of this game, and we're to slam the door on you. As for Purdy, as for Brock Purdy, here's the problem. So I've said this is a guy who is, I've always considered myself a political moderate. Lean left somewhat socially, lean to the right physically, depending on what we're talking about. And I feel like I'm in the same position with Brock Purdy. I do not consider myself a Brock Purdy super fan that thinks he's a top 6 quarterback in the NFL. I also do not consider Brock Purdy to be, barely a starting quarterback in the league, as some have put out the idea, as if he's the second coming of his predecessor, Jimmy Garoppolo. I have said from the jump, since the day he took Jimmy's job, when Jimmy Garoppolo suffered a foot injury 2 years ago and Brock Purdy took the job and hasn't given it up since, I've said, this guy's absolutely better than Jimmy G. He moves better. He's a better decision maker. He's more accurate. He's a better fit with the Shanahan system. Frankly, I trust him more in the clutch than I trust Jimmy. The Niners were winning games in part because of Purdy and his contributions. They were winning playoff games in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo. Purdy's the better. Like, anybody that thinks anything I'm about to say, he's Jimmy No, absolutely not. He's not Jimmy Garoppolo. He's far better than Jimmy. Frankly, most are, because Jimmy's a backup, but different conversation for a different show. But we have to be honest about who he is as a player. And by the way, this isn't even necessarily a bad thing, what I'm going to say. It could be, depending on how the Niners approach it moving forward, but only time will tell that. First and foremost, we have to acknowledge this. In the regular season, Brock Purdy is an objectively awful quarterback. Like, we'll show you the numbers. Awful when playing from behind. Show the stats. That said, by the way, this says in the second half this season. That should say the second half of his career in the regular season. Brock Purdy, 920 yards passing, 2 touchdowns to 10 picks, barely completing 60% of his throws, and a passer rating of 58. Brock Purdy, when trailing, I'll repeat this, when trailing in the second half of games in his career, has a passer rating in the high 50s, well below league average, with if you want to round down, a 1-to-5 touchdown to interception ratio. We have to be honest about that fact. And a part of that is because that this is a player, talented as he may, I shouldn't say talented as he may be, more talented than Garoppolo as he may be, is because notice something I said about Purdy as it relates to Jimmy. Better fit in the Shanahan system, and a better, just in terms of his tangible and frankly intangibles, better than Jimmy G. All I mentioned about Purdy, measurables. Arm strength, accuracy, mobility, poise, all of those he exceeds Jimmy Garoppolo. But they similarly are extremely reliant on the talent around them in a really limiting way for Kyle Shanahan. We can show you, this is Brock Purdy's numbers. I could not believe this stat when I saw it when I was doing prep for the show. This is Brock Purdy with McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, and Trent Williams. When they're all healthy, these are his numbers. They're insane. 29 touchdowns, 3 picks, 266 pass yards per game, completes basically 70% of his throws, a pass rating of 120, and a 13-1 record. That one loss was the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. When I said it the day after, hey, I can't put the game on Purdy. Purdy was fine in that Super Bowl, but that's his one loss with those guys. No shame in that, losing a Super Bowl to the Chiefs. A lot of teams do that. But if Brock Purdy is missing, not all of them, any of them, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Trent Williams, these are his numbers. 14 touchdowns, 16 picks, 264 pass yards per game, completes 63% of his throws, pass rating of 84, and has a 4-8 record. We do have to be honest about who this player is. And I think some of what I find a little frustrating with the Purdy dialogue is the first thing I see when that Niners game is over. Kyle Shanahan. Now, for the record, didn't think Kyle Shanahan necessarily had his fastball in this game. I thought Kyle has a really bad tendency to be kind of rigid to his playbook. We've seen that in Super Bowls in the past, even, of course, going back to when he was the OC with the Falcons. They blew that lead to the Patriots, so on and so forth. In that Super Bowl against the Chiefs in 2019. I did not put the Super Bowl on him in 2023. I thought Shanahan coached a brilliant game. I thought he was great in this past Super Bowl against Kansas City. But we do get into a weird spot where the Chiefs are without McCaffrey, who we know is clearly the MVP of this offense. I mean, Shanahan and frankly the Niners since 2019, losing record without McCaffrey, best team in football in terms of the record with McCaffrey. Last year with Christian, top red zone offense in football. This year with Christian, this year without Christian, bottom 3 in the National Football League in terms of red zone offense. Is that when you're a quarterback in this league, folks, some things just aren't going to go your way. And by the way, I didn't expect Brock Purdy to win that game. I'm not criticizing him for losing to the Chiefs. Guess what? Everybody has since Christmas. Josh Allen's lost him. Lamar Jackson, Burrow, all the good ones. Justin Herbert. Everybody's lost to the Chiefs in the last 10 months. Just don't be the reason you do your team in. He was against Kansas City. He was against the Cardinals with those brutal turnovers, particularly that last one on the final drive of the game. Crap isn't going to go your way as a quarterback in this league. How do you respond? I don't expect Brock to be Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, Allen. But can he be Stroud, Love? Guys that I trust. We've seen, Houston dealing with injuries. Nico Collins, who is apparently like the lifeblood of the Texans offense. Texans still won against Buffalo when he got hurt and almost got the job done in Lambeau with C.J. Stroud playing poorly. Stuff isn't going to go your way in this league. Can you at least keep your team afloat? Frankly, that's what Dak Prescott. Do you see the Steelers defense last night against the Jets? Yeah, Dak played that same Steelers defense and led a game-winning drive with minimal offensive talent and no running game and a bad offensive line with a bad head coach and a beat-up defense. So I think that is what I have become a little bit frustrated with the Chiefs, with the Purdy conversation. Nobody's criticizing him for not winning yesterday against Kansas City. Those decisions in the second half of that game, really throughout the game with the interceptions, all 3 were brutal. One of them might have been a receiver ran the wrong route in his defense, so at least 2 of them were brutal. We tend to see those from Brock in those situations. We do. Again, trailing in the second half of games, Brock Purdy has a passer rating of 58. With all of San Francisco healthy, passer rating of 120. If in games where any of them are out, 84. Not awful. Certainly not a guy that the Niners are probably about to give $60 million to and gut their roster. Be careful what you wish for, San Francisco. If I were them, heck, the Cowboys waited an eternity to pay Dak, who's the only guy keeping their franchise above water with the minimal talent they have there. I'd wait till after the 2025 season unless something drastic changes. Because the reality is for Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk's gone for the year, torn ACL. Deebo Samuel's got freaking pneumonia from what I'm hearing. But Deebo should be back sooner rather than later. So should Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle's still there. Dre Greenlaw should be coming back. And God, the Niners defense desperately needs him. Fred Warner's still awesome. Nick Bosa. The pieces are there. The NFC is certainly the NFC West is right there for the taking. You've got the coach. Things aren't going your well. How will you respond? It's been a damning trend on Purdy, and we'll see if it turns around. Because thus far, it really hasn't. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Yeah, Jeff, thanks for the love of Mustafa before saying Mahomes got him. Mustafa was our leading tackle, 12 and 6 solo. He was everywhere. And like you said, hardest hitter, loved that guy and called it. Yeah, he's fantastic. Let's see. Let me, because Jeff has a ton of comments. I can't get to all of them. He says, that game is was not on Shanahan at all, LMFAO. The only thing he really did wrong was taking the extra point instead of going for 2. Bryce, we have to be honest, though. The Chiefs' defense looks almost constructed to be our weaknesses. They have the best defensive tackle in the game. To be our weakness at center and left guard, they were in press man, which more than any other team. And our weaknesses at wide receiver is press man coverage. They can't get separation right now. Debo doesn't have a case of anything. He's just fat and unhealthy like always. And when you're inconsistent on training and diet, you don't get sick as much or injured as much as you think. Now, listen, it's fair. I mean, Jeff sent me a picture of Debo. I was like, holy cow! Like that guy does not necessarily look like he's in crazy shape, but. Again, by the way, that's probably why I picked the Chiefs, because matchup-wise, I didn't think they matched up with the 49ers. But with that said, I thought this was a situation where Brock Purdy, I'm again not faulting for losing to the Chiefs because everybody does. Could you keep us in it? Just keep head above water. We'll see if that turns out. By the way, the Niners are the Cowboys on Sunday. So that's a get-right game, and I think they're going to get right. So I think they're going to smoke Dallas. So there you go. All right. Lively show on Carving Up. Tons to talk about. Going to get into the Detroit Lions, my NFC title pick before the season began. Cannot wait to get into that. We'll be back in a minute on Carving Up Live, our 5-year anniversary celebration. Do not touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Carving Up Live, our 5-year anniversary celebration of the show. Appreciate everybody stopping by today on what is a jam-packed Monday show. Want to talk about the Detroit Lions because obviously, as Dan Campbell would say, they did what they always do.
Kneecap, 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 kneecap.
You know, they did it again, and against the Minnesota Vikings, 31-29 yesterday in a fantastic game. I mean, this to me was the best game all day long in the National Football League yesterday. I thought there was a chance it could be Minnesota 5-0 at home, off a bye. That to me, this may shock you guys. That win was actually more impressive than the Cowboys win last week. It really was, because sure, they go into Dallas last week and they mopped the Cowboys at home. Well, yeah, so Baltimore. Heck, the Saints mopped Dallas in Dallas. Jared Goff did his thing, but we know the Cowboys' defense stinks. Lions' defense did their thing. Yeah, we know the Cowboys don't have a ton of talent on that side of the ball. I mean, kudos to them. 47-9, didn't see that coming. But they were just kind of toying with Dallas by the third or fourth quarter, throwing passes to Lyman, running reverses for Penei Sewell. They were screwing with Dallas. That game yesterday tested your will. When Detroit is in a spot, all right, this is early in the football game. They've got the ball first drive of the game. It's 0-0 early on. And they've got a 4th down and 7 in their own territory, and they fake the punt. And listen, I love Dan Campbell, but this is the only spot where he kind of loses me. It's like, Dan, the chances of this working are next to nothing. Just punt it away. Like, play defense. Cut your losses on this drive. But Minnesota rides that momentum. Again, at home, and the Vikings have about as good of a home field advantage as anybody. When they get going with that skull chant, man, that place is special. That place gets going. Minnesota's up 10-0, and as a guy who loves the Lions, again, as I always say, not a Lions fan, they're just my adopted team. I love everything about their organization, how they're built, and how they go about business and playing the game of football. But even me, who loves the Lions and picked them to go to the NFC title game, I'm watching it. It's 10-0. I'm thinking, oh, man, it's Minnesota off a bye. Brian Flores, best defensive coordinator in football, second best, in my opinion, to a Steve Spagnuolo in Kansas City. they've got rest. They're at home. This is a big divisional game. Maybe the Lions got fat and happy off the Dallas win. And oh no, Jared Goff just went back to doing what he always does, and that's playing, or what he's done this season. That's playing incredible football. Look at Jared Goff. Alfred, by the way, shout out Alfred Parsons Jr. cranking out these graphics like crazy today. Let's look at what Jared Goff's done in the last 4 games of this Lions win streak. He's been amazing. 9-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Okay, 271 pass yards per game, and he is first in the following: yards per attempt, completion percentage. He's completing 83% of his passes in this winning streak for Detroit. A passer rating in 4 games, not 1 game, 4 games, of 144, which for context is 20 points higher than the second guy, Lamar Jackson, who's going to be playing tonight. A QBR is 73.8, that's first, and a team record 4-0. That's obviously tied with the Chiefs for first place in the last 4 games for the Lions. And what I love about this team, what I love watching them, to me, why they are the absolute favorite to come out of the NFC. Okay, Niners are beat up. Green Bay's too young. Minnesota, Darnold was good yesterday, but I still don't trust Darnold long term. He's giving me no reason to. Okay, at any point in his career. So I can't start now. Okay, NFC's, Philadelphia's got a coaching deficiency. Washington has a defense deficiency. Dallas has an everything deficiency. Atlanta, do we trust Kirk in the playoffs? Baker's great, but I don't trust the Bucs defense. The Detroit Lions, do we realize what they just did? Teams get fat and happy off big national TV wins all the time. We see it all the time. You win that big game on Fox or CBS, or you win the Sunday night or Monday night game. You're feeling good about yourself. Maybe you're not putting quite as much time in the film room as you did the year prior or the week prior, and someone comes in and kind of humbles you. Oh no. Detroit blew out Dallas, but in that game, lost their best defensive player for the season in heartbreaking fashion, Aiden Hutchinson. They walk into Minnesota, arguably the best defense in football, as great of a home field advantage as there is in the game of football. Down 10-0, come back. After kind of beating themselves with turnovers, down 1, a few minutes to go. Jared Goff, can you save the day? Of course he saved the day. And the Detroit Lions, who have had kicker issues the last few years, got the kid, Bates comes in there, bam, right down the middle for the game winner. This team can beat you so many different ways. I mean, you look at the Lions stat sheet, it's all over the place. They rush for 144 yards. Jared Goff throws for 280. Okay, Amon-Ra St. Brown, $112 for the air and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, who was amazing, offensive MVP other than Goff in my mind, because he had 2 touchdowns in this game and 160 yards of offense. They can beat you so many different ways. If Detroit wants to run the football, they'll run the football. If they want to beat you in a track meet, they'll beat you in a track meet. If they want to play time of possession, they'll do that. They want to hit you at the top, they'll do that. They're great situationally. They've got the smartest offensive coordinator in football. Defensively, again, situationally, they have their bumps and bruises. I still think, even if they don't get them, it would be a mistake to not at least call the Raiders about Max Crosby, who's stuck in nowhere land with the Raiders right now. They can beat you in a different way. And Dan Campbell, we got this from the Detroit Lions YouTube channel, so credit to them. This was Dan Campbell after the game. If nothing else, if all else fails, God, this team plays their arse off. And Dan Campbell exemplified it in his post-game speech. Watch this.
To say that I'm proud of you would be the massive understatement. That's the way to come in here. Everything we talked about from the time we got to halftime to the way we had to finish it out, man. Composure, right? Communication, attitude, patience. My God, man, you guys didn't bat an eye. I love this freaking team. I love the coaches. I love the players. I love everything about it, man. We are so freaking hardened. Even when it doesn't go the way we want it to, man, you find a way. That is an outstanding win. We are 1-0 in the division, gentlemen. That's 1. Break it down.
How in God's green earth could you not want to play for that guy? I mean, that's what endears people to the Lions is they're the perfect NFL team where they, in the sense that, I guess what I'm trying to say is they combine the modern, clever, creative aspects of today's NFL offensive football, and they mix that with, we are going to hit you as hard as we can, and you may beat us. The Buccaneers did back in week 2 in Detroit. You're gonna be beat up yourself, coming out of this game. Listen, unless you're a Packers, Bears, or Vikings fan, unless you're in the NFC North, I think this is maybe the easiest team to root for in the NFL. One of the easiest team to root for in all sports. This team is is incredibly constructed. Brad Holmes has aced the draft 4 years in a row. Dan Campbell is this guys ready to play every single week. Their coaching staff, Ben Johnson, has been excellent. Aaron Glenn doing what he can on the defensive side of the football. I mean, they're without their best defensive player. Arguably, who knows, maybe their best player, Aiden Hutchinson, and they go into Minnesota on a team at home off a bye. After Detroit just came off a fat and happy win against the Cowboys, 47-9. Dan Campbell said it best. Didn't bat an eye. I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, that is the favorite to come out of the NFC this year. They lost Hutchinson, knock on wood for him. I actually saw a report that said if they get to the Super Bowl, he may have a chance to return, which, hey, I mean, who knows? Because I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl. But I'll say it today. I want this on the record, even though it was on the record back in September. I predicted a Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl before the year started. I would go so far as to almost guarantee that. Like if you said, okay, Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl or the field. I think I'd bet Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl. I mean, Kansas City hasn't lost its Christmas. Like, why? They got the best quarterback in the world, best coach in the world, arguably the best defense. Why? A championship pedigree. They've won the last 2 Super Bowls. Why in God's green earth should I bet against the Chiefs? And then the NFC, I'm sorry, because Detroit has so many different ways to beat you, and Jared Goff's playing the best he's ever played in his life. There's not much that this team doesn't do well. Like, that's the thing. They do everything, not just well, but at an elite level. Best O-line, run the football. Again, Jared Goff, the thing with Jared Goff, and the book is out, it's been out, get pressure on him, and he struggles mightily. But if he's got time to throw, whew. I mean, he's a classic. He's the last of a dying breed of pocket passers. Boy, is he a good pocket passer in his time, though. I mean, this is a special Lions team. I think they're going to continue to be an absolute, because the thing, too, last thing I'll say in Detroit, and then we'll move on. The thing about Detroit that's so impressive to me is that, last year there was hype around the Lions. I said they'd get to the NFC title game, and they did. But generally it was, okay, they could maybe win the division and maybe win a playoff game, but it was kind of a cautious optimism. And then they shocked the world. Okay, we've seen teams do that plenty of times, but can you repeat it? Success is hard. Sustained success is 10 times harder. And the Lions actually look better than they did last year. I'm telling you, I'm not saying they're a juggernaut. What I am saying is I'm not sure who beats this team in a playoff game. Because I think they're going to get home field advantage. Detroit's a hard place to win. Tampa Bay's done it, to their credit. Man, that's an easy team to root for. And I'm telling you, Chiefs, Lions feels like a guaranteed Super Bowl at this point. Which, who could have seen that coming? Who could have seen that coming? I won't be cocky today. It's week 7. You got a long way to go. It's week 7. Speaking of which, great teams competing against one another. How about the Texans and the Packers? Green Bay wins that game in a walk-off field goal by a final score of 24-22. Tick me off as a guy who took the Packers to cover. That was the frustrating. It's 2.5. They win by 2. It's like, gosh darn it, the Texans able to get it done in the betting market. But Green Bay wins this game 24-22. Quickly in Green Bay, and then I'll get to Houston. Jordan Love is so funny, man. His mechanics look just like Aaron Rodgers. From his pocket presence, the way he moves back there, to the arm angles, to the way he kind of rainbows those deep balls, and it's a thing of beauty. His mechanics are just like Aaron, and his decision-making is just like Favre. Like, he'll get when, and that's, by the way, that was kind of a criticism I had of Aaron for years. Like, Aaron, take a shot down the field, man. You're one of the best at it. Favre, we knew he's the best at it because he did it a lot. Brett would hit you on the home run ball, but then he throw a what the heck are you doing interception. And Jordan Love did that not once, but twice yesterday. 2 brutal interceptions. That is the only reason the Texans were even in this game. And that's kind of what I want to hit on with Houston. Listen, you want to win every game you play, obviously. Herm Edwards said it best. You play to win the game. But there is such a thing. I don't believe in bad wins, because that's the whole point of showing up to work, is to win the game. I do believe in good losses, though. I absolutely believe in that. And if you're a Houston Texans team, so your first loss coming into this game was against Minnesota. Well, Minnesota's beaten literally everybody that they play on their schedule, at least other than Detroit, who is incredible right now. But Houston's in a spot where the last 2 weeks, they've been without Nico Collins, who apparently, I thought Nico Collins was tremendous. I didn't know he was the lifeblood of their the lifeblood of their offense with Stephon Diggs, with Tank Dell, Joe Mixon. Obviously, C.J. Stroud, who, by the way, failed to throw for 100 yards this game. C.J. Stroud had 86 yards passing, so he really struggled. Texans really got all their points because of the Packers' turnovers, Jordan Love turnovers. I think if you're Houston, you got to be the mindset like, okay, we're 5-2. We're going to run away with our division, the AFC South. We got the momentum coming off of last year. We're young. Got ways to improve. D'Amico Ryans, I didn't think D'Amico coached his best game. I thought he was a touch too conservative. I would have liked to see him kind of open up a little bit more, especially in the Texans' last offensive drive to kind of put the game away against the Packers. But hey, everybody has a bad day at the office. You go to Lambeau, like it's a red-hot Packers team and a red-hot Jordan Love. Stroud throws for sub 100. No Nico Collins. And it takes a walk-off field goal to beat you? I don't know. I think you're going to feel pretty good if you're a Texans fan right now, and if you're a Houston Texan player or coach. Like, this is there's such things as good losses. There are. Long-term speaking, there's such things as good losses. And so, listen, I don't usually say kudos to teams and losses, but kudos to Houston. Like, Lambeau's a hard place to go in, and they were able to push Green Bay to the brink, and then Jordan Love, kudos to him, being clutch at the end. But I think Houston's defense is tremendous. I think they're really talented. I think both, again, I said coming in this game, these to me are like mirror images of one another. They're just playing opposite conferences in opposite cities. You know, one plays in freezing cold, one plays in a dome. Both have great young quarterbacks, great young coaches, stacked weapons, and defenses that are excellent. And by the way, Green Bay's defense, I'll tell you what, now that they got this new guy from Boston College, he's turned them around. Xavier McKinney's making plays in the DPOY race. This is a real Packers defense, and the first time I could say that in quite some time in Green Bay. It's always been an offense-centric franchise that's kind of put defense in the back burner. Doesn't look like they're doing that right now. So kudos to Green Bay. They're a well-oiled machine, and they'll certainly give Detroit a run for their money for the NFC North, as will obviously the Vikings. Chicago, I think, will be a playoff team, but I don't think they're quite there yet. You don't want to ask the Dallas Cowboys. Heck, ask the Niners last year. You don't want to host Green Bay in a playoff game. If you polled 10 NFC teams, you get a home game against either the Eagles or the Eagles blew out the Giants. Cute. Daniel Jones stinks at home, but stinks most days. Play the Eagles at home in a playoff game. Play the Packers at home in a playoff game. 10 out of 10 would pick Philadelphia to play. I mean, Nick Sirianni, Matt LaFleur, it's not even close. Not even remotely close. So there you go. So for Houston, I don't think it's the end of the world. I really don't. So I will get to the rest of Week 7 NFL action, do our, obviously, Monday NFL recap. Then we'll predict tonight's really interesting slate of games. You know, usually I'm not in favor of the Monday night double dip. You know, having one game. In this case, one game kicks off at 8:15 Eastern, the next one at 9 Eastern. That's, our latest football game of the year. Well, second, because the Cowboys-Steelers game got postponed by the storm delay. But I wanted to shift for a second to the World Series, then the WNBA Finals, and then obviously go back to the NFL after that. So I want to preface everything I will say by saying this. How do I feel about the Yankees? Where it starts with an H. I hate the Yankees. I really hate the Yankees with a passion. There's nothing I like about that team. Their uniforms, their the fan base. There's some Yankees fans that I'm actually friends with. They were good people, but generally the Yankees fans can be obnoxious. The ballpark is a dead environment. There's no energy whatsoever in that ballpark at the new Yankee Stadium. They haven't won in 15 years, but if you ask your fans, you'd think that Babe Ruth was walking in the back door tomorrow and Mickey Mantle's taking batting practice right now as we speak. Nothing. By the way, they're stupid facial hair policy. It's just, I don't like anything about the Yankees. With that said, and that preface, I can't freaking wait for this World Series. I think if you love the sport of baseball and your teams couldn't be in it, this is about the best option you could have possibly rooted for. And certainly if you're Rob Manfred and you're Major League Baseball, a sport that we've seen over the course of the last 15 years or so has seen a steady ratings decline as the NFL's gotten more popular, as the NBA has had dynasties and great players. Frankly, as college football is beating you out and the March Madness, like baseball's the WNBA is certainly on more of an upward trajectory. We'll get to them later than baseball's been. This is the absolute best case scenario for the sport, and here's why. So first and foremost, in this century, 21st century, 2 highest rated World Series ever. 04. Why was that the case? Well, because my Red Sox were looking to break the curse of the Bambino. Babe Ruth won their first World Series title in 86 years. What was the other highest rated World Series of the 21st century? Well, it was the Cubs. Winning the World Series, first time in 108 years. That was probably the best baseball series I've watched start to finish in my life was Cleveland-Chicago. Chicago winning in a crazy Game 7. Fantastic game. I'm not saying, by the way, that Red Sox World Series in 04 got 15.8 million viewers. Cubs World Series in 16 got 12.9. I'm not saying it'll reach that. I'm not so sure it won't come in third. Last year's World Series, folks, was struggling to bring in 5-6 million viewers per game. Nobody cared. I mean, Rangers, Diamondbacks, nothing against those players, organizations, or fan bases, but they're not interesting. 2022, sure, you got Houston. You got Houston with the cheating scandal. You got Philly. Okay. Year before, Atlanta, 88 wins. Houston, who everybody hates. Year before that was COVID. Then it was the Astros, who everybody hate. We've seen in baseball, we just haven't seen that truly compelling, must-watch World Series in quite some time. Frankly, I think since 2016. And by the way, my Sox have won a title in that span. I love the Red Sox, but if you didn't watch, don't blame me. It wasn't a crazy, entertaining series. The stories write themselves with the spot, folks. You've got, to me, the premier faces in baseball. You got Aaron Judge for the Yankees looking to get his first title. You got Shohei Ohtani, his first postseason ever as best player in baseball, looking for his first World Series title. The 2 faces of the sport. You got the 2 biggest media markets, New York, LA, East Coast, West Coast. There'll be a ton of celebrities going to these games. It'll have star appeal. It'll have glamour, a flair. 2 historically great franchises, Yankees, Dodgers. Historically great, well, the Dodgers, this is still the case. The Yankees, it used to be the case. Historically great ballparks. History's all-time greats. By the way, 2 managers who people been, by the way, I myself been guilty of this, trying to run out of time forever. Dave Roberts with the Dodgers, Aaron Boone with the Yankees. These fan bases hate their managers. And here they are in the World Series. One of them's going to hold the Commissioner's Trophy in about a week and a half or so. And listen, this is a sport that has been dying for not just a compelling story. I don't know the best way to put this, but something where you have to, the NFL does this better than any sport, and it's not even close. You have to literally mark time out of your schedule. I have to watch this. Baseball has not had that I think since the 2016 Cubs, and before that, the 04 Red Sox. Outside of that, it hasn't had it. That's not to say we haven't had great teams and fun series. That's not to say that. But with national appeal, folks, we have not had that in some time. We do now. And by the way, Mookie Betts, this was breaks my heart because I love Mookie. And certainly I love my Red Sox. Hate, the decision the front office made, but nonetheless, Mookie looking for his second World Series title. By the way, the Dodgers have been much maligned for some time in the sense that, hey, last title was 88. You won the 1 in 20, but people, for reasons I can't quite understand, say, it doesn't count, even though literally every other team was in the same situation as the Dodgers in the COVID-shortened year, whatever. So they're looking to prove some people wrong in that area. Dodgers faced, adversity, faced elimination twice against the Padres, faced a hot Mets team, dispatched them in 6 games, what felt like kind of a lopsided 6 games. I watch the World Series every year because I'm a baseball fan, but this is one where I feel like I have to be locked in every single pitch. Baseball's been dying for stories. By the way, the WNBA been dying for stories. Now they got stories aplenty. Here you are, baseball. You've had bad scandals over the years as it relates to cheating and steroids. The Hall of Fame is continuously and will continue to be a controversial topic. You got the best player on planet Earth, Shohei Ohtani, the best player in America, Aaron Judge. This is I'll have more of a preview. I'll certainly have my prediction by Friday's show. For the sake of the sport of baseball, which I love dearly, and a league I love dearly, Major League Baseball. God, I hope this goes 7 games. This would be everything to the sport of Major League Baseball. And listen, I want to see the day again, because in my lifetime watching baseball, being a Red Sox fan, there was a time, folks, where baseball truly was America's pastime. It's football now. It's football. It's NFL Sundays, college on Saturdays. It's taken over the world now. I mean, in the summer, people are going to watch the NBA Finals before they watch a baseball game. I mean, check the NBA Finals ratings, check the World Series ratings. They'll tell you everything you need to know. The baseball's trying to make adjustments. Pitch clock, which is great. Banning the shift, great. I think this is as good as baseball could have possibly imagined. As good as they could have possibly imagined. Yankees, Dodgers, frankly, the 2 best teams in baseball all season long. Phillies had the second best record, but the Phillies kind of faltered down the stretch. I can't. I hate the Yankees passionately. I can't wait for the series. I cannot wait for the series. It's going to be a fun one. Again, prediction Friday, but I'm pulling strong for the Dodgers. Definitely pulling for LA. And Shohei, by the way, Shohei too, the whole idea, Shohei cheated and gambled, and no, his freaking interpreter did. Like, read an article or 2 or 5. Shohei was I talked about this earlier this year when that happened. Shohei was the classic. How many times have we seen a celebrity with a childhood friend who takes advantage of them? How do we not see that all the time, where they get robbed blind by their best friend in the whole world, or even by a family member, by a parent? That's what Shohei's former interpreter did. And, he paid for it in the eyes of some, unfortunately, in terms of his image. But I find him to be a compelling player. By the way, I read the stat this morning. They'll move to the WNBA Finals. I read the stat this morning on Triple Option on the radio again, 89.5 The Edge. Please check it out on the TuneIn app every Monday from 10 to 12, every Friday from 12 to 1. Shohei Ohtani. This is a real stat. In his last 23 at-bats with runners in scoring position, is batting .718. .718 is Shohei Ohtani batting with runners in scoring position in his most recent 23 at-bats. Nothing against Cleveland. Well, a lot against Cleveland. And certainly nothing against the Mets. This is as good as it gets. Without my Red Sox being in it, this is as good as it gets. I cannot wait. Fantastic World Series. I'll talk about it on my show. It's a World Series that will lead sports shows. And Rangers and Diamondbacks did not do that. Astros, Phillies didn't really do that. Neither did Astros, Braves. Cannot wait to watch. All right. WNBA Finals. This in a season where the WNBA has been talked about more than ever. Again, I've been a WNBA fan for years, but I certainly talked about it more than ever than I have previously to 2024 on this show. Women's basketball in general. This finals was absolutely, if you miss this, man, you missed something special. So the Liberty win their very first ever WNBA championship in 5 games, which is obviously the max for the finals until next year when Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner, announced great news. WNBA Finals, 7-game series, best of 7 series starting in 2025. Cannot wait. But the Liberty take out the Lynx in a crazy game. And really all of them were, but this one especially, 67-62 in overtime. A game in which the Liberty is a crazy finish, right? Sabrina Ionescu, who, by the way, congrats, Sabrina, been a fan. Carving Up's lasted for 5 years. I've talked about Sabrina for almost all 5. Been talking about this particular athlete since she was at Oregon. Huge fan of Sabrina. She didn't shoot well at all. 1 for 19, 1 for 10 from 3, but has her first championship. Congrats, Sabrina. Big fan of hers. Trained with Kobe. Like, so happy for her. And happy for all the Liberty, but especially for Sabrina Ionescu. 5 seconds left. Breanna Stewart's got the ball. Fouled, I think, clearly raked on the arm. After missing, by the way, Breanna Stewart, 83% free throw shooter, missed the previous 2 free throws that would have tied the game with 30 seconds left, steps up there with the championship in the balance, sinks both free throws, sends the game to overtime, and the Liberty absolutely shut down the Lynx offense in the overtime. In the 5 minutes, the Lynx scored 2 points. Jockwell Jones, I believe it was, who had the massive blocks with about a minute left to kind of seal the deal, at least hold off any last ride the Lynx were trying to make. So congrats to Liberty, WNBA champions. To me, though, that isn't the main story, though. As great as that is for Breanna Stewart winning another championship, Sabrina winning her first, the Liberty winning their first, to me, the story is as follows. And I think it's, in some ways, I smile when I say it because I think it's so true. It's almost indicative of how life works. You know, New York is a basketball town. In a sport, if we're talking about sports, New York's a basketball town first and foremost. First and foremost, it's basketball over football, baseball, hockey, anything. And that city has not seen a championship in 50 years since the Knicks last did it. I think that was 1973, if I remember correctly, the last time the New York Knicks won an NBA championship. And it's been, can the Knicks do it? Can they break through? Can they get the championship? And he got these women with the New York Liberty say, Knicks, you may win it next year. You'll have your time. We'll do it. Us women, we'll get the job done. Think about it in a different way. Not in relation to a championship, but in terms of style of play and impact on the game. Steph Curry, great, we know, greatest shooter ever. Everybody's heard that. I, as a big Steph Curry fan, Warriors fan, I always say, I try to add to that, change the way the game is played, coached, and analyzed. And for the last, I'd say 5 years or so, since the Warriors dynasty allegedly ended in 2019 before they proceeded to win another one in 2022, in that time span, it's been, okay, Steph's an all-time legend. Steph's one of the greats, but who's going to take the mantle from Steph? Who's Steph going to pass the torch to? And we've heard Damian Lillard, who's without a championship. We've heard Trae Young, who barely can get in the play-in tournament. We've heard a lot of guys, he's the next Steph. He's the next Steph. That guy can, and then none of them even come close to the star power, to the shooting ability from the outside of Steph, until a woman from Iowa, Caitlin Clark, says, no, I'll do it. I'll take the mantle from Steph. Now, Steph's still the man. Don't get that wrong. Steph's still the man. But once he's done, the mantle will be carried by one Caitlin Clark. Not Dame, great as he is. Not Trae Young. None of these other great shooters. Caitlin Clark, the woman, takes the mantle. Everybody's like, who's the guy to give it? She said, no, I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it. I got this mantle for you, Steph. I'll carry on the legacy of deep shooting and changing the way the game is played. The Liberty. Man, can New York get a championship? Can the Knicks? The Liberty said, no, we got you. We'll take the reins and get the job done. I mean, heck, the Olympics, Team USA. I don't think the country is ever more patriotic than every 4 years at the Olympics. We are pulling hard for the red, white, and blue. God bless America, and have the eagle fly over the country, for crying out loud. We're all fired up. Can we win the most gold medals in the women? Say, we got you. We'll win 65% of your gold medals, which led, I forget what the total number of gold medals was, but led the rest of the world by far. And we tied, obviously, I think it was China for total medals. Our women, Team USA women, won 65% of those. The women's basketball team, Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky, Sydney McLaughlin. I mean, just these incredible female athletes. And, Holly Rose said it after the game last night. Holly Rose said at the trophy ceremony, something along the lines of like, invest in women's sports and this is what you get. You get games like this. You get finishes like this. You get a spot where there's an NLCS Game 6 being played in Los Angeles between two big brands. There's a Sunday Night Football game being played in Pittsburgh in as compelling a Sunday night game as you'll see. And there's a WNBA game. And I couldn't take my eyes off that WNBA game. Sure, I'm watching my Steelers. Don't get me wrong. And I'm obviously paying close attention to the NLCS. But the way that game finished, the way that this WNBA season has transpired, the way that it has, the storylines, the incredible play. Sure, the WNBA is in great hands moving forward, but about time we give women's sports the round of applause that it deserves. New York, a basketball city, has been starved of a championship for a half century, and the women did it. The women broke that drought. We've been looking, who's there apparent to Steph Curry? It's a woman, Caitlin Clark. And who wins the vast majority of Team USA, the greatest country in the world's gold medals. Why, it's the women, of course, 65%. That, to me, watching that game last night, the fact that it was the Liberty that did it, and the context of New York basketball made it all the more impressive, all the more special. So congrats to the Liberty. Congrats, one of my favorite players, Sabrina Ionescu. Brianna Stewart's a dog out there, clutch free throws. Shout out to the Liberty Lynx. Great season. WNBA season doesn't start till May. I can't wait for it. By the way, to fill that need, we're going to have March Madness with Paige Beckers, with Juju Watkins, with future female basketball stars that will continue to make their presence felt and known. Shout out to women's sports. Y'all deserve it. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Real quick, wanted to check this comment out from Patrick because I saw it right as we went to break. He says, I was multitasking between football, basketball, and baseball. I was highly entertained. Yeah, I had YouTube TV on in my living room, and I've got it's like the three screens there. So on the left, I've got the NLCS. On the right, it's Steelers Jets. On the bottom, it's the WNBA Finals, Game 5, determining game, to decide who wins the championship. So listen, this is why I love October. This is why every sports fan loves October. There's so many storylines going on and so many incredible games and moments. I mean, it's the one month of the year where literally every major sport is going at the same time. Plus, you have college football. It is, listen, let's just put it this way. Topics are a little bit easier to come up with in October than in March, than in August, to say the very least. But definitely with you right there, Patrick. By the way, I saw this. Then we'll get to our Week 7 recap. Saw this, that according to Tom Pelissero, the Raiders are signing Desmond Ridder off the Cardinals practice squad. So, and we know Aiden O'Connell's gotten hurt and Gardner Minshew's looked like Gardner Minshew tends to look, but my big takeaway from that is, Desmond Ridder signed off the practice squad, and just wanted to say as a daily reminder that Desmond Ridder has thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers, who I am continuously lectured, is still good. Just throwing it out there. Week 7 recap. We had a game in London early Monday morning. Early Sunday morning, rather. Patriots, Jaguars, 2 1-win teams. I said coming into this game, this was as compelling a game between 2 1-win teams as you could have, and it in a weird way kind of was. I mean, Drake May, we're 2 games in. Patriots aren't very talented. This kid looks good. He's got zip. He's got composure, arm strength. He's dealing with a bad O-line, bad weapons. Drake May, now again, bad Jaguars defense, but still, second start of his career, 2 touchdowns, pass rating of 109.7. I was very impressed by Drake May. I was skeptical about him coming in the draft. I didn't think he was going to be one of the guys that panned out long-term, in large part because of where he ended up going with the Patriots. But thus far against the Texans, who have a great defense, against the Jaguars, who don't, he's been solid. By the way, the Patriots have the Jets on Sunday. That game's in Foxborough. What's the line of that game? What's the line? Oh my goodness. Jets -7.5. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not calling Patriots upset, but I'm also saying if the Patriots win, I will not be in the slightest bit shocked. As for the Jaguars, my man, Trevor Lawrence. Y'all trying to bag on Trevor. Low-key kind of having a good individual season, but Trevor Lawrence in this game completed 75% of his throws. 75% of his throws, 1 touchdown, QBR 0 to 100 of 95, and a passer rating of 121. Hey, y'all hating on Trevor. Trevor's still doing his thing. I'm not, giving up on Trevor yet? I have been begged by my audience, give up Trevor. Nope. I saw it in 2022 and 2023. That elite quarterback is there. I see it. And I've seen it in spurts over the last few weeks. Trevor's actually been solid individually this season. Just got to translate some more team wins. So love what I saw from him. Buffalo Bills blown out the Tennessee Titans 34-10. Josh Allen was amazing. 323 through the air, 2 touchdowns, pass rating of 116. Amari Cooper, first game as a Bill, caught a touchdown this game, 4 catches for 66. He really is going to add a new dimension to this Bills offense. I said when the trade was made, he's going to have more of an impact with the Bills than what Devontae Adams is going to have with the Jets. Thus far, so good. So good win for the Bills, taking care of business against a terrible Tennessee Titans team. Speaking of terrible teams, that's what the New York Giants are. They got blown out at home 28-3 to the Eagles. This was my upset of the week, and I whiffed badly on this one. I thought Jalen Hurts would turn the football over and Nick Sirianni would get in the way. It's hard to get in the way of a Saquon Barkley, who was a man on a mission. 17 carries, $176 against his former team. How's 10 yards a carry go for Saquon in his return to MetLife Stadium against his old team, the Giants? That's got to be a front office got to be sick after watching that. That just goes to show you how poorly the Giants are run, where best player on your team you let walk to your rival. And probably the biggest net negative on your team, Daniel Jones, who you gave to me the most, other than Deshaun Watson, the most absurd contract in the NFL too, was Daniel Jones' numbers. Good Lord. 14-21, 99 yards, QBR of 16, and a passer rating of 77. And got benched for Drew Lock in the fourth quarter. Now, Brian Dable said that Daniel Jones is going to start against my Steelers on Monday. That's great news for me. And if the Steelers defense ate up Aaron Rodgers, who's terrible, what are they going to do against Daniel Jones, who's even worse? Be a blowout. Pittsburgh, PA. Love to see it. What else we got? Seahawks over Falcons. I liked this pick coming in the week. Seahawks win this game in more dominant fashion than I thought. 34-14. Listen, Atlanta was due for a stinker. Right, every single game that they played has been moderately close. Even the Panthers game, Carolina kind of moved the ball in Atlanta, which I found a bit concerning. Falcons defense is an issue. Like Raheem Morris, it was a great DC with the Los Angeles Rams. I still think he's a great defensive coach. I don't think it's a personnel problem. They got Matthew Judon for the Patriots. They've added Justin Simmons. They've got Jesse Bates. They've got plenty of playmakers on that side of the ball. They're just not producing on that side of the football defensively. As for Geno Smith, I mean, he was tremendous. Passer rating of 110 in this game. Seahawks ran the football relatively effectively. Listen, I don't buy Seattle necessarily as a playoff team, but as a team can come in against a playoff team and get a win, yeah, sure they can do it. So, when you're winning as many close games as the Falcons are, you're bound for a stinker. It's gonna happen, and that's what occurred in the ATL. Falcons will be fine long term. I'm not worried about them. Here's who you should be worried about. Bengals beat the Browns. This was a game I actually thought Cleveland would cover in because Burrow historically kind of struggles against the Browns. Did in this game. He had a couple touchdowns. But obviously the big story, Deshaun Watson going down with a season-ending Achilles injury in, I think it was the second quarter of this game. So he's obviously done for the year. So first of all, from a contract perspective, it's hell for the Browns. They owe this man $70+ million over the next 2 years individually. So they owe him about $140, $150 million fully guaranteed. So it goes to show you again, Browns being the Browns, worst contract by far in the history of the National Football League that they gave to Deshaun Watson. And they're going to have to pay every single penny, whether he's with them or not. As for Deshaun, I want to touch this super quick, and then we'll move on to the other games. There's not that many left. I thought Danny Parkins, very talented guy, does a show on FS1 called Breakfast Ball. Danny Parkins is tremendous. I thought he hit the nail on the head today, is that, and I'll sort of spin it my own way. We can hold two thoughts in our head at the same time. So what makes humans so complex is like one thing can be true, as can another, that on surface value looks like they might actually contradict, and they don't. On one hand, I listen, I'm not happy that Deshaun Watson blew his Achilles. I don't wish injury upon any athlete. I don't care who you are. I don't want you to be hurt. I think if you do, I think you're kind of a little bit of a sick person. But people portraying him as the victim in this story is insanity. I love LeBron James. I think he's the greatest player ever, and I think LeBron's a great human, and love LeBron. But I'm seeing LeBron saying like, hey, Cleveland, and I think LeBron's heart was in the right place, but hey, Cleveland, because he's a Browns fan, we're better than this, just because, Deshaun's not playing well, whatever, don't mean we need to. Because for context, folks, Browns fans booed Deshaun Watson when he came out in the field before the game started. As I don't like Cleveland fans. That's just I don't like Cleveland fans. They just get on my nerves. They had every right to do that. And when Deshaun goes down, they boo him when he's on the turf. Listen, wouldn't have done it if I can't speak if I were in that situation. I'm not a huge fan of booing in general. Wouldn't have been a choice I made, but they weren't. It's not as if they weren't justified in doing so. And by the way, portraying Deshaun as, oh my God, this guy's got everything against him, folks. He settled 20 sexual assault suits. I mean, Deshaun Watson's not the victim in this story. I mean, let's make sure we keep that in check. I mean, this is a guy whose off-field history is about as bad as you could possibly imagine. Not exactly an upstanding citizen. Again, wish him the best in recovery. I don't wish injury upon a single athlete. I'm not happy. I think if you're happy Deshaun Watson has a blown Achilles, I don't vibe with that. I just don't. Deshaun's not the victim here. Let's make that abundantly clear. If we're going to compare booing a guy when he's down with an Achilles to what Deshaun, I guess we have to say this, allegedly did, I think that's a bad stance to take. The Colts beat the Dolphins 16-10. Tua, for the Dolphins, they're 2-4. Tua said today he's coming back this week against the Cardinals. Even more concerning, Tua said he's not going to wear a Guardian cap, which I think is listen, it's Tua's decision. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about this. I love Tua. He's a great dude by all accounts. Seems to be really beloved in the Dolphins organization. Coming back is one thing. Coming back without additional protection when you suffered 4 concussions, I don't know if I like that at all for the Dolphins. Frankly, I don't. As for the Colts, Anthony Richardson is as inaccurate as ever, 10 for 24. But they got the W. They're 4-3. I mean, did Joe Flacco help him get there? Anthony Richardson, but in particular, the run game got the job done. So kudos to the Colts for getting a good win over the Dolphins. Commanders 40-7 against Carolina. Big story in this game. Jaden Daniels left early with a rib injury. Marcus Mariota came in, finished the job, threw a couple touchdown passes. Mariota's like the perfect backup to Jaden Daniels with his mobility, and they're kind of similar college players in a sense. Both of them obviously won the Heisman Trophy, so 2 Heisman in Washington. So Commanders are 5-2, leading the NFC East. Amazing offense. Again, I get they only gave up 7 to Carolina. Carolina is an absolute dumpster fire along with New England. Even though I think New England's actually going in a better direction than the Panthers with the certainty that they may have at quarterback. But we'll see if Jane Daniels is fine in the long run. And finally, Rams taking out the Raiders 20-15. Vegas needs to trade Max Crosby and just go ahead and go into this rebuild. As for the Rams, they're 2-4. They're 2 games back of the division. I mean, it's been a disastrous start for the year. Worst start to Sean Payton's career as a head coach with the injuries they've suffered. But Cooper Kupp could come back as soon as this Thursday in what is a huge Thursday night matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. Listen, it wasn't a great offensive performance for the Rams, but if you're seeing that from their defense, maybe they could turn their season around. This is a team I thought would be in the NFC title game. Thus far, it hasn't exactly looked like that, but I trust Sean McVay and I trust Matthew Stafford to get the ship right once they get everybody back, Puka Nacua, and more recently Cooper Kupp. So definitely still buy, but not selling stock on the Los Angeles Rams, put it that way. All right, before we get out of here, we got a Monday Night Football double dip. Let's get the background music. Ravens and Buccaneers. Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a fantastic Monday night matchup. Okay, you got 2 high-flying offenses, 2 kind of questionable defenses. 2 teams that give up a lot of big plays. Ravens in Tampa are 4.5-point favorites in this spot. So Ravens after starting 0-2. I said before their game against Dallas that if they lose to Dallas, fall to 0-3, their season is over. They said, "Hey, screw you, Bryson. We're gonna go 4-0 in this stretch. Lamar's gonna play the best football of his life. Derrick Henry, even at this advanced age of his career, seems to be doing the same. It's a well-coached team. It's a great offensive coordinator in Tom Monken. Mark Andrews has finally got involved in the offense again. I still do not love the Ravens defense right now from what I've seen. They give up too many big plays. They don't turn the football over as much as I'd like. As for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're kind of similar. Baker Mayfield coming in this week, leading the NFL in touchdown passes with 14 in total. Mike Evans doing his thing. Chris Godwin's been great. The Buccaneers' run game has been better this year than it's been in years past, compared to last year and throughout the Tom Brady era in Tampa Bay. But similarly to the Ravens, Lavonte David, even at this advanced, again, age in David's career, is still a monster at linebacker. Vita Vea is dealing with injuries. It looks like he's going to play tonight. The secondary has gotten carved up all season long. With that said, I think you'll see a lot of points. I do like the Buccaneers to cover. Tampa Bay's 4-2. They just put up a 50-burger. I get it's the Saints, but that's a division rival. The Bucs have played, frankly, if not for that 12-second play against the Falcons, or less than 12-second play against the Falcons, they'd be 5-1 right now. So Tampa is in a good spot. I'll take the Bucs to cover, but I will take the Baltimore Ravens in a high-scoring affair, 31-28 to win this one outright. So give me Tampa Bay in the points, plus 4.5. But the Baltimore Ravens to win this one and get to 5-2. I'll tell you, that matchup incoming, if the Ravens win this game, get to 5-2, the Steelers are 5-2. That matchup coming up down the road on November 17th. Woo, we know Steelers and Ravens games are intense. We haven't had that one with that big of stakes potentially in quite some time. So Ravens, though, in the spot. Rooting against them, obviously, in favor of my Steelers. But they win this one 31-28. Take Tampa Bay and the points. There's another Monday Night Football game, though. LA Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. The Chargers are a 1-point favorite. We did get this news 6 minutes before I'm talking right now. Lad McConkey, rookie out of Georgia, he's going to play in this game, so it's huge for LA. Listen, this is they're almost like not even a poor man's Chiefs, but like the Chiefs that live in the downstairs part of the apartment, or like the basement, if you want to put it that way. They're not pretty. Justin Herbert's not putting up gaudy numbers, but oh my God, they're so well coached. They run like what Kansas City has in defense, the Chargers have in their run game. And again, I think the Chargers could have beaten Kansas City had LA been far more healthy than they were. But they've got the best tackle duo in football. Herbert's been able to build somewhat of a rapport with Quentin Johnson, who looked like a bust last year. We'll see if he's able to materialize this year. I still think the Chargers need to beat their division rival Chiefs to the punch in terms of going out and getting a wide receiver at the trade deadline, which is only in a couple of weeks tomorrow. Ironically, Election Day, go figure. But it's a great Chargers defense with a great pass rush. Derwin James, Joey Bosa, as well as Khalil Mack. Jim Harbaugh's going to have his guys ready to play every Sunday, just like Mike Tomlin, just like Andy Reid, just like Dan Campbell. As for the Cardinals, again, said before the year they were a 4-5 win team, but they'd be a fun to watch 4-5 win team. Marvin Harrison Jr. make a bunch of plays, uber talented wide receiver. Kyler Murray, I saw a stat today that he has not won back-to-back games in his career. Now, they're coming off an ugly loss to the Packers. I just like the talent advantage, the coach advantage, certainly the quarterback advantage. Give me the Chargers in this spot to cover 27-20 against an Arizona Cardinals defense that we've seen throughout the course of the season. Can be had, no question about it. That game's on ESPN+, so streaming service game alert, but give me LA 27-20 over the Arizona Cardinals. I said that like a Key and Peele skit. Cardinals. Remember the substitute teacher? I love Keegan-Michael Key, Jordan Peele, brilliant people in the entertainment industry. Key and Peele was the best show back in the day. I loved it. You done, maybe you know what? I just came on that idea. Maybe because Aaron Rodgers will continue to play poorly. Maybe I'll have the substitute teacher Key and Peele skit, and when Aaron plays bad, which there's gonna be a lot more of those games, play the Keegan-Michael Key substitute teacher. You done messed up, Aaron. Maybe I'll do that. Either way. That is it for the 5-year anniversary celebration for Carving Up Live. Thank you so much, not only to everybody tuning into this show, but those that have tuned in over the last 5 years. I cannot believe how fast it's gone by. Again, I listen, not to get all nostalgic and everything, but I remember October 21st, 2019, the room I'm in now, adjacent to this room, right over there, I did my first show. And I remember talking about the very first segment I did. That was when I was still a Cowboys fan. So the Cowboys and Eagles had just played a Sunday night game. It was, at the time, it was like, who's better, Dak Prescott or Carson Wentz? And I was adamant in my own nervously shaking voice way, with a far more Southern accent than I have now. I said, Dak Prescott is clearly better than Carson Wentz. And I gave out some numbers and all that, and how Dak never loses to Wentz and all that. And so it's good to know that the very first take I gave, in the history of this show wound up being a pretty darn right one. Of course, Carson Wentz has bounced around the league. Dak Prescott, unfortunately, remains with the Dallas Cowboys. I wish he were a Steeler, but hey, Russell Wilson, I like what I'm seeing. Although the final take I gave on that show, LA Clippers winning the 2020 championship, not great. Not great. Started strong, ended pretty brutally. Hopefully that can be the opposite. Hopefully we have great takes across the board on this show today. But thanks to everybody for tuning in over the last 5 years, for tuning into today's show. We'll be back. Well, actually, before Wednesday's show, we're going to be back tomorrow night. I want to make sure we get this on the record. Tomorrow night, same time as usual, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook and on YouTube. Our Carving Up, we do it annually, Carving It Up NBA season preview 2024-2025. This is going to be a fantastic fantastic NBA season. You got 2 games tomorrow with the Celtics and the Knicks. I think, is it Lakers-Timberwolves? I think Lakers-Timberwolves might be the second game. Yeah, Timberwolves-Lakers in LA at what was used to be called the Staples Center. Fantastic storylines in the NBA. So tune in tomorrow. If you're an NBA fan or if you're a sports fan, tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Special edition of Carving It Up, the 2024-2025 NBA season tip-off show on Carving It Up. Tune in. Cannot wait to go into my predictions for the season, going over, every team's, ceiling, floor, all those things, award prediction, and most importantly, who wins the darn championship. That's why we're here at the end of the day. Who wins the NBA championship? I will predict that on tomorrow's show. You do not want to miss that. And later tomorrow night, the 8 o'clock spot on the Grid Network YouTube channel, the best game show in sports entertainment. Tune in, Grid Network, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time on the Grid Network's YouTube channel. Of course, be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. Hopefully, the next goal, the next benchmark is to get to 5,000 subscribers. That is our next goal. That is what we're trying to do. So appreciate everybody. Again, I know I probably sound annoying or like a broken record or whatever, but I really, really mean this. Thank you so much to everybody who supported the show. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I'm glad I remembered. Carving It Up. The reason the show even exists, or is 5 years old at the very least, is because I remember, I'll never forget it. Me and my family were we're all in the car. My dad was driving. I don't remember what we were doing that day. It was like early to mid-October, something like that. And I said, I don't remember. I said something along the lines of, I'd love to talk about sports. I'm jealous of these people on TV who get to do it for a living. And my dad literally doesn't even turn around. He just says while driving, he says, well, then why don't you start a podcast? And for some reason, that idea never occurred to me previously. I don't know why. My dad was like 7 steps ahead of me on that one. And so I got the wheels turned. I'm like, okay, that's actually not a bad idea. Like, let's go to the process of setting this up, getting a microphone. It's not the same mic that I'm using now. See how it works, setting up the show. And since then, we ate dinner. After that, we ate dinner at a restaurant. And my sister said, we were trying to come up with names for the show. I'm like, it's not going to be the Bryson Carver show. That doesn't pop. That's generic. And she said, what about Carving It Up? I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect. Like, that's okay, Carving It Up. And then as for my mom, she has, over the last 5 years, been I might as well acknowledge her as a contributor to the show in terms of the ideas. Like, the Vol View was my mom's idea. Full stop. That was her idea. Some of the stuff that I've done in terms of segments, in terms of different ideas I've had for Carving Up Live has been her genius. So love you, Mom. Thank you for the support and for the ideas for the show and for your love. It's the same thing for my sister. Thank you, sis, for the idea for the name of the show, the reason we are even doing Carving Up Live, the reason these social media @s are even there, and to my dad for getting the wheels turned my head to begin with for the idea of starting a podcast. I love every single one of you guys to the moon and back. I'd do anything for you guys. Just want to have that, on the air and for you guys to see, because I'm not here doing the show without them. Just want to have that on the record. So be sure to go subscribe, obviously, to the Grid Network. We have the best content creators in the world. Please check out Patrick Brown, writes great articles for the Grid. Special show today. Hard to believe it's been 5 years. Hopefully we'll have another 55 for all I know. That's the goal for Carving Up Live. So with all that said, we will see you tomorrow. Special edition of Carving It Up, the NBA tip-off special tomorrow night, same time as usual, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube and on Facebook. Great YouTube channel, Carving Up YouTube channel. You can find the show on both. Cannot wait to get into it in the 8 o'clock spot at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. The best game show in sports. We'll see you then tomorrow, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, NBA Tip-Off Show. Stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that affects every single one of us on a day-to-day basis in this country. And no matter what anybody tries to tell you, oh, it's not a problem, or oh, there's only one solution to the problem, both are BS. Both are not true. It's a huge problem that needs a number of detailed, nuanced solutions to solve it. And this being an election year especially, it's in 2 weeks, y'all. Get out there and vote. Use your voice. A lot of people have died for that right to vote. If there's anybody that shows no sense of urgency to address it, either vote them out of office or vote against them, because we got to address this and protect the people in this beautiful nation. 5 years of Carving Up Live. Let's have 50 more years of Carving Up Live for all I care. See everybody tomorrow. NBA Tip-Off Show. Can't wait for it. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. 5 years. And Steph Curry's still the man. What can I say? Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. And be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.